me, I can call you back and you can listen to me over the phone, just in case. Hello, friends. Good to see you. My name is Aslam Sheikh, your host for this evening. I'm a president of Swiss Education Foundation, an exclusive platform to promote Switzerland as a study destination. This is our very first talk show and broadcasted live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Every alternate Thursday, we aim to bring in the eminent speaker to discuss the topic that will help you to explore this beautiful country, which has been the favorite destination for Bollywood shootings, family vacations, and definitely for education. This is the first of its kind program which will take a deeper dive into Switzerland and touch upon various topics like Swiss lifestyle, culture, sustainability, education system, student life, Swiss institutes, career opportunities, and many more. Our today's topic is Explore Switzerland, the gem of Europe. To discuss this exciting subject with us, we have none other than the Council General of Switzerland, Mr. Othman Hardeker. And let me welcome Mr. Hardeker in the room. Hello, Mr. Hardeker. Thank you very much for calling.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope the sound is okay. I'm really sorry for some technical inconveniences that we just encountered, but I hope from now on everything will go on.
Absolutely. It's all okay. It's all good. I'll just quickly introduce to our audience about Mr. Hardeker's brief introduction and bio. Mr. Othman Hardeker is the Consul General of Switzerland, Mumbai. He was deputed in the Mumbai office in August 2018. He joined the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in 1986 and served in various positions in Rome, Tehran, New York, Dresden, Bonn, Jeddah, Prague, and Frankfurt. Almost covered the two ends of the world from 2009 to 2014. He served as a deputy head of finance at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in Bern. From 2014 to 2018, and prior to his transfer to Mumbai, he was the consul general in Ho Chi Minh City of Vietnam. Mr. Hardiger holds a diploma in business administration and advanced studies of international relations. Thank you, Mr. Hardiger, for your time and your availability.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. I thank you for the initiative and the invitation to this presentation. And I really look forward to give hopefully some new insights to all the participants in this call.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So, friends, let's begin this exciting session without any further delay. And let me introduce a little bit about Switzerland. Switzerland is a country landlocked of towering mountains, deep alpine lakes, grassy valley dotted, and neat farms and small villages, and thriving cities that blend the old and the new. Switzerland is truly the nexus of diverse physical and cultural geography of Western Europe, renowned for both its natural beauty and its way of life. So, to understand more about Switzerland, let's ask Mr. Hardiker the questions which we have already accumulated from our students, parents, and teachers. And let's understand and learn from Mr. Hardiker more about this beautiful country. So, Mr. Hardiker, the first and very first question is for most of the countries, a lot of history has been spoken about. We know because of the different wars and different major incidents which happen in those countries, usually the history is well known. But in case of Switzerland, what we see is that whenever we visit Switzerland, we just get into its natural beauty and get into the present time. So take us back into the history and introduce us how the Switzerland was formed and how this country came into existence.
Yeah, thank you very much for this first question, which of course is very important to understand a little bit the characteristics of a country. For us, the year 1291, so it's 730 years ago, is considered the founding year of the Swiss Confederation. On our National Day on August 1st, every year we remember an ancient pact in which three valley communities in central Switzerland pledged to keep the peace and to assist each other against any external threats. Later in the 14th, 15th century, rural and urban communities in Switzerland formed a loose federation only. The territory of the confederation was steadily enlarged over the centuries, and to gain and preserve also the independence and freedom, various battles were fought against the neighboring powers at the time, Austria, France, the German Empire, in which the Confederates displayed a lot of courage and gained a reputation as brave fighters. And a number of battles were won, but some of them were also lost, and this limited the geographical expansion. Over the centuries, there were also some conflicts within the Confederation, of which some were also resolved by military means. And it was 1815 at the Congress of Vienna when the last cantons were added to the Confederation, and also at the same time the European powers recognized Switzerland's borders and its neutrality. Later in 1848, with a new federal constitution, the federal state as it exists today was actually created, and with a federal government, and also Bern has become the capital of Switzerland at that time. In the 20th century, I would say that Switzerland's armed neutrality helped to spare the country from the two world wars. And neutrality, in fact, still plays an important role in our foreign policy. It allows Switzerland to act as a mediator in international conflicts and to take independent positions. It favors our role as a host state of international organizations and conferences. And you might have heard 10 days ago, there has been a high-level meeting between the presidents of Russia and the US in Geneva, which is a perfect example for this host nation that Switzerland can play. And this long road to independence and state building has also shaped the country, and the will to self-determination is still deeply rooted in the Swiss people, and is also reflected in the fact that Switzerland has so far not joined the European Union.
Switzerland stands very strong, and I think it has got the reason to be the peacemaker for various countries and for various nations, and it has been the place whereby various differences have been solved. On this point, we would like to move to the next point, and students and parents they also ask many times this question that as in India we have the political system wherein we have got the prime minister, president, we have got different states in India, and then we have got the capital. We would like to know a little bit more about how the Swiss political system works in a nutshell, just from a foreigner's point of view.
I try to be brief. I would say there are two important pillars of our political system. One is the federalism, and the second is the direct democracy. When we come to the federalistic state of and structure, we have to mention the three political levels, which are on the confederation, then the 26 cantons, and finally on the lower level, the cities and municipalities. Historically, much power remains with the cantons out of the consideration for the diversity of the language and the culture. And the powers of the confederation are exactly limited to those areas that the federal constitution has entrusted it. The cantons enjoy competences like education, taxation, police and security, healthcare, and so on. And on the federal level, the parliament is our legislative authority, and the Swiss parliament, Federal Assembly, has a total of 246 members, all directly elected by the people. So two chambers, one is the National Council with 200 members, and the other is the Council of the States, representing equally each canton. So on the government side, the Swiss federal government is consists of the Federal Council with 7 members. They have a function like here in India comparable to the ministers, and they are elected by the parliament. The composition, and that's perhaps a little bit special in the case of Switzerland, is very finely balanced, that it represents, the 7 members represent the strongest political parties, but also the language groups and the regions of the country. And the composition has been unchanged for many, many years, and it guarantees also the stability of our political system. The Federal Council is re-elected every 4 years, and in rotation, one of the Federal Councillors is elected by the Parliament for 1 year as the Federal President. And this frequent rotation, of course, is a reason why our presidents are in general not well known abroad. And coming to the direct democracy, I just like to say that, yeah, in Switzerland, people play a major part in the federal and decision-making process. All Swiss above 18 have the right to vote in elections, in the referendums. People are called approximately 4 times a year to exercise this right and to vote on an average of about 15 federal proposals or referendums. And in parallel also, the same citizens are called to elections and votes in their respective cantons and municipalities.
Right. I think that's a very interesting point which you made. Switzerland has got a very inclusive policy towards the citizen, and the lot of referendum, even for the small matters related to the canton or to the city. I see that you approach to the locals, you approach to the citizen to take their view before you make it as a policy, and that shows that it has got a very advanced democratic way of taking the decisions and making the policies in place. That's something which is very interesting to note about it, and that gives us a chance to talk about the Swiss economy. We know that Switzerland ranks number fourth in the recent 2021 economic index, whereby the Switzerland ranks among the most freest economy, which I've got the report with me. And Switzerland is also ranked number one among 45 countries in Europe region as overall score above the regional and world average by for being the freest economy. That also says a lot about its democratic steps which it takes. So we'd like to learn more from you about the Swiss economy, that which are the major trades and sectors which actually contributes largely to the Swiss economy, and what have been their achievements in the economy as a key industry player.
Yes, I'd like to also here stay brief as possible. In fact, you're right. Switzerland, I would say, first of all, it has to be said also that our economic footprint is considerably larger than the size of the country would make think. It was not always like this. Until the late 19th century, actually, Switzerland was a poor state shaped by agriculture only. And only following the industrialization over the course of a century, it transformed to an economy with one of the highest GDP per capita. And according to the World Bank's figures on nominal GDP, Switzerland ranks on 20th position with about 680 billion US dollars. What now are the main features of the economy? You mentioned very rightly, Switzerland is one of the most open and liberal economies, and is extremely well integrated into the global economy and value chains. And because of the small domestic market, our economy is traditionally strong export oriented. Exports make up around a third of the GDP. And in 2019, for instance, exports of goods amounted to about 340 billion US dollars. With a share of more than 50%, Europe is by far the largest export market, followed now by Asia with about 28%, and the US and Canada with about 16%. So these are our main export markets. And competitiveness, of course, is key to succeed in foreign markets. And Switzerland ranks regularly as one of the most competitive economies in the global indexes. And Switzerland scores traditionally high in terms of innovation, business environment, infrastructure, stable political system, competitive tax system, and a efficient public administration. If you look at the structure of the economy, perhaps also important to mention, we have 99% of all companies have less than 250 employees. So many of these SME companies are actually successful with high quality niche products in world markets. But in Switzerland, of course, Switzerland is also home to some major multinational companies, which play also a vital role, of course, in our economy. And I
Right.
would say we even have one of the highest density of multinational enterprises. Key industries, I would say it's important to say life science, very important sector, life science, including pharmaceutical, chemical industry, medical technologies, and they also have the highest share in our exports of about almost 40% of all exported goods. Second is the machinery, engineering, and metal industry, with about 17% of the exports, and also important, or let's say known abroad, is of course the watchmaking industry and precision instruments, also typically from Switzerland. Chocolate and cheese, which is of course an important and well-known export good, accounts for about 3% of our exports. Then, of course, to mention also service industry, over 70% of employees are in the service sector. Switzerland is also a financial center with about 260 banks and 200 insurance companies. Tourism is important. Then also Switzerland is a major hub for commodities trading platforms. Finally, Switzerland is an investor also in other countries, like here in India. Here in India, for instance, we are on the 12th position as FDI investor with a bit over 300 companies operating here.
Wow. That's, I think, friends, is a wealth of information coming from Mr. Hardiger, and it would be very, very useful for you to note down and watch this video again if you wish, once the recording is available on the social media, because that's how you're going to keep a track on Switzerland, and you can make a wise judgment that why should you select this country. Because selecting a country for a study point of view for students, parents, or teachers is not only just about looking at the university or the course availability. You also want to look at these external factors which actually influence the country and the way country operates. So on this note, so let's move further. Mr. Hardiger, we would like to also talk to you about the languages, because it's been talked about, and then it's also one of the apprehension for a few students, knowing that it's not an English-speaking country as a first, or the first language is not in English. We would like to know a little more reality about it, that how difficult or easy for the foreigner to come and speak and live with the locals, and what language and also the climate, plays a role in the country.
Right. Yeah, many people would know Switzerland has four national languages. German is the most widely spoken language with about 64% of the population. Then second is French with about a bit over 20%, and about 7% speak Italian, and a very small percentage of less than 1% speak the fourth national language, which is Romansh. And of course, the Swiss German that people speak is quite different from the standard written German. That's important to know also.
Yeah.
And also the differences in the Swiss German dialects are quite distinct from one region to another. School children, students, they study a second national language, and in recent years, the importance of English has gained a lot of importance. And when you're traveling to Switzerland, you will easily find also people speaking some English, in particular among the younger population, and especially in the cities. I think, yeah, it's for tourists or let's say students living for a certain time in Switzerland. It will be not too difficult to make yourself understand. Speaking about the climate, I would say we have four distinct seasons, and if a traveler like it warm and sunny, the best travel period would be from April to October about. Winters are generally rather cold with snow in higher areas, some rain in lower areas, but of course buildings, apartments, all are well equipped with heating system and for the cold season. We are, yeah, a small country, but the weather can be quite different in the northern part, a bit colder than in southern part, which has a climate that is very similar to the Mediterranean climate. And alpine weather, of course, if you go to higher altitude, is of course cooler than in lower areas. And important when you stay in Switzerland is to regularly check the weather forecast for your area. Weather can change quite rapidly.
Absolutely, and that's what I notice whenever I travel. So, whenever we have to make a schedule for the next day or to talk about the next day's schedule, it's always been said that okay, let's check the weather and then also be prepared to make some adjustment in the schedule. So, weather checking is a very important, I think, aspect of day-to-day life in Switzerland. And friends, as you understand from Mr. Hardiger, that the English is widely spoken in some major cities. It would be spoken very freely, and especially among the youngsters, it's not that difficult to find the people who can speak in English. And of course, if when you go to the interiors or the small towns, maybe that you would find a little bit challenges while kind of conversing with the people. But still, out of my experience of last 13 years, I've been traveling quite regularly to Switzerland. So, be it a small village like Vegas near to Lucerne or to any big city, you always find people. At least they try to speak, even if they can't speak fluently, but they will try make an effort to speak to you and to try to understand what you're trying to say. So that's the experience which I had my during my time. And in terms of institutes, yes, almost all the institutes they offer the courses in English language when you talk about hospitality courses, especially. And for the other courses, you have got bilingual education system, French education system, German education system, or also, as Mr. Hardiger said, the Swiss education system. Okay, on this point, let's move to the next question, Mr. Hardigan. We know that Switzerland is also ranked consistently among top three or top five nation under various categories for being most innovative countries in the world. We would like to hear from you that what kind of contribution, as an example, if you can present here, the Switzerland has made in the field of science, technology, and innovation.
Yes, you're right. It's really fair to say that Switzerland is a world leader in when it comes to innovation. And for the last 10 years, really, Switzerland has been at the top of global innovation index. And now maybe also a question, what are the reasons for such a good performance? And here, I just like to say that in general, I would say Switzerland has a high standards in education, science, and research. You see that looking at the excellent ratings of the universities, and also I can say we have had 7 Swiss Nobel Prize winners in the last 30 years, and it's also an indication that probably education system has a fairly good level. And also it's known also that Switzerland has high spending on research and development. We spend close to 3% of the GDP for research and development, and in fact, it's over 3/4 of this fundings comes from the private sector. So it's more the private sector than the state that is responsible for this good result. In fact, then I would say in general, yeah, an outstanding business environment. I mentioned this before. It attracts also knowledge-intensive enterprises like Google that set up also offices in Switzerland, and it's also the high quality of life that attracts also talents from Switzerland, but also international talents actually. And a fourth reason I would say for a good success is that the cooperation between universities and research institutes with the private sector, I would say is really very special about Switzerland. It allows also companies to transform innovations rapidly into marketable services and products. And we see that also a high number of spin-offs result as startups in new technologies from the university research. So therefore, Switzerland, I can say, is really well positioned also now in new technologies such as AI, robotics, blockchain, drones, advanced manufacturing, and also personalized health.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more on this point. And as we are talking about education, because education is really funding the Swiss innovations and technology advancement, we would like to also learn from you that which are the education sectors which you think, according to you, is well known in Swiss education industry.
Well, I would say in general, the education in Switzerland, is a very special feature is the so-called dual education system, the coexistence of academic education and vocational education. And both systems are actually promoted and supported by the state. Academic education, of course, universities with excellent ratings. I mentioned this before. Two of them, Federal Institutes of Technology in Zurich and Lausanne, are even among the top 20 universities worldwide. Um, then vocational education, I also can say it has a high standard. Is 2/3 actually of all school graduates would opt for a vocational apprenticeship, and often later on after the apprenticeship, there are many paths also to higher education, and including also the possibility to reach to a university degree, for instance, in one of the universities of applied sciences. And of course, Switzerland has an excellent reputation for its private schools as well. And there is a wide range of education at all levels, in fact. And many of them are also attended by young foreign students. And in particular, I like to mention the leading role in when it comes to hospitality management education, where Switzerland has been a pioneer. And some of you might know that the very first hotel school opened in 1893 already in Switzerland, and it still exists today. So it's been a success story in the hotel management, education, and this education has also this particular concept of learning by doing, combining theory and practical training, and that's been probably one of the reasons also for its great success. And you will find graduates of Swiss hotel management schools in good hotels all around the world, actually.
Absolutely, that's true. And it's been also supported by our friend Jeff Bock, who is joining us from UK. He's also being the very senior academians working with the reputed universities of UK. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us on this show. And thank you very much for your comment. That's true. That's what Mr. Hardiger concluded, that the hospitality is also a very important sector, along with the technology innovation. And in fact, I would also add the boarding schools also became a very popular institutes for the students. There is a very early trend which is rising here in India, but we have got a lot of celebrity stars whose kids have studied from Swiss boarding schools. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Hadigar. So now it's a time to conclude this session with some very interesting questions which I have with me. And these are actually not a question. It could be a fact or myth. I don't know. I don't. I just wanted to clarify with you so that our listeners also get some more information and clarity on this. You have 10 or less than 10 words to answer this question. So I'll just throw these questions at you. Uh, that says that Swiss eats a lot of chocolate. So, what is the reality about it?
That's true, and I speak of my own experience. Actually, we eat a lot of chocolate, and there is a figure, I don't know, it must be true, of 10.5 kilo per person per year, which is the
Wow.
highest consumption all over the world, actually.
But still, Swiss managed to keep themselves in the shape. That's a good idea that we got to learn from Swiss people. Okay, we had also a next question. What is Swiss abbreviation? And many times people get confused with this CH means. So, would you like to say something about it?
Yeah, right. That's in fact confusing often people. CH stands for the Latin designation Confederatio Helvetica, which is also the official name of Switzerland. And in addition to the name in the four national languages, it goes back to a Celtic tribe, actually, the Helvetii, that settled in parts of Switzerland about 2,000 years ago. So, Confederatio Helvetica.
Okay, so the same abbreviation we use even to say the CHF Swiss franc in that way.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ajay, for joining the show and appreciating the information shared here. Thanks a lot for your time. Okay, let's move to our next question. Yes, that's a question which most of the time students ask, and they get excited with the answers as well. I would like to know from you, sir, that can I, as a student, travel across Europe without any restrictions if I get a Swiss student visa?
Yes, that's correct. Switzerland is part of the Schengen visa agreement, and also in the free movement of people within the EU countries. Switzerland is part of this free movement of people between Switzerland and the EU as well.
Okay, so here's the good news. When you enter into Switzerland on a student visa, you get a free chance to travel across Europe. Of course, you just pay for your airfare or train tickets, or you drive across. It's not very far, even to take a car and drive to the next country. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing this link with us for eating the most chocolates countries in the world. Thank you very much. Okay, the second last question, sir. The Swiss has world's most expensive living cities. How far it's true?
That's true. It's fairly high in the ranking, Switzerland, but we are not on the top. Just recently in the media, you could see that Zurich, Geneva, and Bern made it, in fact, to the top 10 in the latest ranking. So that sounds perhaps a little bit very expensive, but I guess, like in every city, you have ways of living a bit more expensive or less expensive. But definitely, it's not one of the cheaper countries.
Okay, great. And friends, just to add here a few points, thankfully, almost all of our Swiss hospitality schools and other schools are located outside these three cities. So you have a chance to save a lot of money on living expenses. And most of the schools also do cover your living cost on campus. In that way, rather than living outside the campus and paying a huge amount of money on rent and maybe in the expensive cities like Zurich, you have a choice to stay on campus with school. And this is where, again, Swiss schools are very different than the rest of the world in terms of offering the services to students. And the last question, Mr. Hartiger, is that's a statement that Einstein developed a theory of relativity in Switzerland. How far is that true?
Yeah, that's correct as well. The Nobel Prize winner Albert Einstein, who lived from 1879 to 1955, he lived in Bern for many years. And when he developed actually his theory of relativity in 1905, he was living a resident of Bern. And I can recommend also a visit at the Einstein Museum in Bern next time that you're traveling to Switzerland.
Absolutely. That's a good advice for me as well, because I've never had a chance to visit that museum, but I'm sure it would be very interesting. So, friends, here is the piece of information. So, if you are curious like Einstein and wants to try out your curiosity and wants to try Switzerland as a beautiful destination to visit and to spend your time, do visit this beautiful place. We would like to say thank you, The Spacious. Thank you for joining us and thank you for your comment. We appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Hadiga, for this very insightful, informative session. And I'm sure that as we see the comments, and I'm sure that the students, parents, and all the people who are watching this show across different countries are really enjoying the session and the information which you shared here. Thank you very much again from my side. Any last comment would you like to make to our listeners?
Well, thank you very much, Aslam. Also, I hope that our participants could get some new insights about Switzerland, make them a little bit curious also to learn more. I know that on internet you will find plenty of useful links, good websites to get more information about our country. Also, if you like to travel, of course, we are also here in Mumbai. Let's feel free also if you like to get in touch with us here at the consulate, and in general also, of course, always there if we can assist. And in just like to thank you for your interest, and yeah, keep in touch with Switzerland.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time. So, friends, here is the information and wealth of information about Switzerland on this very first show. And I'm sure that you must have got a lot of good insights, and it must have created a good curiosity to know more about this country and explore their institutes for your higher education. And those who still have got any questions which you would like to talk to us for, do not forget to call us on our helpline number, which is there in front of you on your screen, 887999420001, or you can visit our website, Swiss, ending with Z, swisseducation.com. And I'm just sharing the link here so that you do not get misspelled. And our experienced counselor will be more than happy to assist you instantly on your query. My name is Aslam Sheikh, President of Swiss Education Foundation, signing off with a promise to come back again on 8 July. That's yes, 8 July at 5 p.m. with another guest taking us on a virtual tour to Switzerland on a different topic. Until then, think Switzerland, think Swiss education.